It's the difference between fighting for freedom and
Mhm.
feeling in your body the essence of freedom.
Mm.
I felt more free in prison than I did when I was actually free. So when I felt free, they called me into the office and they said, Jones, we retested the drugs. 90% was fake. And for the amount that was real, you've already done the time. You're free to go home.
Welcome. I'm Alyssa Nobrega, your host of the Healing and Human Potential podcast, a place for you to discover the multidimensionality of what it means to be human. Over the past 20 years, I've trained thousands of coaches in my methodology, leveraging my experience as a former psychotherapist, and I'm here to share with you all the wisdom and insights that I've learned along the way. Each week, I'll share with you life-changing tools to support you in awakening and manifesting your dream life from the inside out. We'll be exploring the intersection between ancient wisdom and modern everyday life, really diving deep into the art of human potential through the lens of psychology, spirituality, and coaching. Let's let the magic unfold. You are in for such a treat today. We have the honor of having Garrain Jones on the podcast, who's one of the world-leading transformational speakers and best-selling authors, but he has the most profound story I've ever heard. So between having near-death experiences, a prison sentence, having a successful music career in Los Angeles, and being homeless, to taking his life to become a multimillionaire, helping hundreds of thousands of people across the globe awaken their inner artists, teaching them how to live an extraordinary life, find genuine authenticity, and live with more joy in the world. You have such a rich and beautiful story, not only going from homeless to millionaire. There's so much in between. Where does your story start?
I would say when I was 4 and my mom, what I thought was my mom forced me to choose which parent to go with as my parents were separating.
Mhm.
And I remember dreading the decision. And I remember saying, I don't want to go. And my mom saying, you got 30 minutes to pack your bags. Which parent do you want to go with?
Wow.
And I remember saying, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. Fast forward to 2 years ago. I used to always be late for everything. I would always procrastinate. And it was difficult for me to make decisions, and I would dread decisions. And I was like, where does that come from? And I felt like I could get anywhere in the world in 30 minutes. Well, let's just say that adults are deteriorated children, I feel. And in the child of my 4-year-old who dreaded not wanting to go, that loop was still open. And I blamed my mom, and it went just like this. I chose my dad because he was easier. My mom was meaner. And 10 minutes after I made that decision, interesting, my earliest memory of intuition was 10 minutes after I made a powerful decision. And as we're driving away, I remember what I now know as my intuition, it was like churning warm water. It was like, stop the car, stop the car. I was like, Dad, stop the car, stop the car. I want to go with mom. I want to go with mom. I want to go with my mom. Dad stops the car, drives me back to mom with my brother. A couple years later, my father was murdered. And I blamed myself because I didn't choose to go with my dad. So now not only was decisions made, felt like dread or not wanting to go, it's also associated with death. And then as I started healing, someone said, do you think your mom was responsible in that moment? I said, hell no. Nobody in my family's ever taken responsibility. It's like she forced me to make that decision. They said, what about in her highest light? And I was like, well, in her highest light, she was responsible. In her spirit body, yeah. Why do you think she had you make that decision? And I was thinking from a different perspective.
Yeah.
In her highest self, coming through the shell of her pain body, she gave me the power to choose my own destiny.
What a reframe.
And when I chose my dad and my dad stopped, he gave me the power to choose my own destiny. Interesting how when I trusted making a decision, my earliest memory of intuition, which is what I'm known for, deep intuition, you don't gain access with deep trust.
Mm.
So ultimately, what my mom said was, you actually can become a man right now.
Mm. Mm.
And so I've been making very powerful decisions since I was little based off of choosing which way and whatever my destiny was set forth. I always chose. Nobody chose it for me.
Beautiful. So you took literally, and I can hear the work that you've done. So you
Yeah.
take some rough childhood, some situations, which we haven't even unpacked
No,
the
there's a
beginning
lot.
of it. And you take an empowered point of view around it. If this were given for me from my mom's highest self,
Yeah.
what was the spiritual gift in it? Which
Yeah.
is you being like, I get to decide my life.
Yeah.
I'm strong enough to make decisions and navigate it, which is such a huge mindset shift. And I want to acknowledge you for the work that you've done.
Thank you.
Yeah. And also the ability to track, just for, the ability to track what's happening right now. And if you're consciously trying to change something, where does it come from? Where was the original imprint for where and how I got designed this way so that I can go back, unlock it, and then free my future, free my present moment.
Well, you know how I started doing that work?
Tell me.
So I had an infection in my tooth, and my face was the size of Thanos's from Avengers. It was like massive. And then I went to the dentist in the most excruciating pain ever. And they said, you gotta get a root canal. I was like, I got one 15 years ago. Why do I need to get another root canal in the same spot? And the specialist said, well, whoever originally did your root canal didn't get it all the way to the root. So you have 15 years worth of infection that is just showing up on the surface. Oof. And in terms of dentistry, you got 2 football fields of infection in your mouth. They had to, it was double the pain. It was, they had to saw half my jaw open. I didn't have insurance. It was double the money.
Yeah.
But on that bed where they were doing all the work, I had the biggest epiphany. I'm like, oh my goodness, all these relationships I've been in, the music groups I've been in, all of it was all surface. I never started focusing on what's the root cause. Mm-hmm. So I started learning a lot about the root cause or things that deeply impacted me in my life, and like really going inward on that journey. And that was a whole nother, there's a lot that we're going to unpack, yeah. But I just wanted to share that's where that work came from.
You really are reflective. You take the symbolism, you're really listening to life and what are you being shown through it, which I think is such a beautiful highlight and way of living. Okay, so coming back, because there's such a rich story that for people that are new to you, I would love to hear a little bit more about some of your earlier childhood and some of your upbringing.
Yeah, so there's several things. My mom was someone who was always working. Mm-hmm. My dad wasn't there, so my mom had to play the role of mom and dad. When a mom can only do so much, she can never take the role of dad. Mm-hmm. There's just 2 different roles, mm-hmm. But she did the best she could. And at the time, my brother was too cool to hang out with me, so that left me being pretty much feeling like I was by myself. And I was one of those little kids that, other kids are talking about cartoons, and I'm like, I feel like we're not the only ones here. I'm looking up at the stars. I'm like, what if there's somebody out there that's just like me, but that's on one of those things out there? And people would always call me weird for thinking like that. Yeah. And I never stopped thinking like that. And the way that I dressed was different. The way that I spoke was different. I felt different, but different back in Houston, Texas during that time meant you didn't really have friends. People didn't really get you. Mm-hmm. You got bullied. You got picked on and talked about. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I started going away from that difference so that I could fit in with everybody else's sameness.
That's right. Yeah.
Knowing that deep down inside, there was just, I could, my thoughts, they were just different. Like I would think of things and they would happen and I didn't know what that was. I would lie about things. I would be like, oh yeah, I'm this and I'm doing that. And oh yeah, my mom bought me this, and I'd be lying. And then they would happen. I didn't know that that was a form of manifestation. So it would like lie it and then I would believe it and then they would happen over and over and over. And so going through that while breaking into cars and in houses, because the only people that hung out with the weird kids were either the headbangers or the troublemakers. And so I chose to hang out with the troublemakers. I never was in a gang, but I ran around with the gangs and I did what they did.
Yeah.
And so going through that, not having truly any proper guidance or mentorship, well, like ABCs, those keep evolving into words, sentences, paragraphs, essays, books. Well, think about the ABCs of not proper guidance, and you keep doing it.
Yeah.
The word version of that is going in and out of juvenile, and I kept doing that, in and out of jail, breaking into cars, doing a kick door on the chief of police's house in Missouri City while the whole police department was looking for me, and I'm in a lake called Alligator Island with a giant pixie stick breathing up like this because the dogs could sniff and find me, but the dogs couldn't find me in Alligator Island that was fested with alligators.
Wow.
That's how fearless I was.
Yeah, I hear it. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot.
And some near-death experiences when you were young, right?
Yeah. So when I was 4, I remember being in an apartment complex, and there was I thought he was a man, but he was a teenager that was probably like 18 years old. And I remember I was out of my apartment and I had walked down the stairs, and I remember I used to love Disneyland so much. There was just this feeling of just like imagination and Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. And I remember the adult, I remember this because it was so impactful for me, saying, hey, you want to go to Disneyland? And I remember it not making sense to me, but I'm supposed to listen to people that are older than me, listen to adults. If you get into that dryer, you'll go to Disneyland. So there's a community dryer stacked on each other. He picks up a 4-year-old, puts him into the top dryer. Me, closes the dryer. The dryer's on. So I'm just tumbling. And I remember before it closed saying, this doesn't feel right, in the way that little kids think.
Yeah.
This doesn't, but okay, imagination, I'm going to go to Disneyland. Tumbling, burns and boils all over my body. He left me there to die. And a lady saved my life.
Wow.
So what did that do? Don't trust, one, it's a white guy. Don't trust white people, men. Don't trust people older than me. Don't trust my imagination because it's associated. Don't trust decisions because it's associated with dying. It's associated with not believing my like what these extra magical thoughts are. It's associated with like my, at the time, lack of trust for white people, white men, that literally tried to take my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that made a massive imprint on me.
Yeah. Yeah. And so having, what I hear is kind of in your reflection, these different pivotal moments of your life, you're looking at how you are abandoning yourself, how you're creating narratives, how your life is shutting down out of fear and out of the different traumas that have happened. Is that right? And another experience as you're like
12, 13. So 13, 12, my dad was murdered.
Yeah.
And I blamed myself because I could have chosen to go with him.
Yeah.
There's that. And then 13, I remember being in a cul-de-sac playing baseball, and these guys were saying, hey, there's some trout in the bayou. And I remember it's like, oh, I want to go fishing. And I left the game, and Derek Duncan, he said, don't leave. And there were some guys that they were my cousin's friends, so I trusted them. My cousin's like 7 years older than me. And I had heard about little kids being drowned in the neighborhood. They were just dogs dying, little kids dying because there were some adults that were drowning little kids. You never think something like that's going to happen to you.
Yeah.
So I knew these guys. I've seen them before, and they're my cousin's friends. I go, and they said, oh, you got to look closer. And I was like, I don't see any trout. They're like, you got to look closer. And I remember the tone of his voice changing. But by the time I made up in my mind, wait a second, I think these are the people that drown the kids, I was already thrown in the water. So they threw me in the water. I got turned upside down by current. I couldn't swim. I can swim like a dolphin now. I couldn't swim at all. The current sucks me underwater, and there's three pipes. There's three pipes that get sucked into the tunnel and comes out on the other side of the street. That's how they drowned and died. So I'm screaming. I'm like, and I'm going like this. And then I just remember letting go. Dead. So I remember letting go. And this is not water that you can see underneath. That bayou was dirty. So I remember letting go, being sucked into the tunnel. A hand came out of nowhere. I don't know how it saw me, grabs my hand while I'm underwater, pulls me up just enough for me to grab the side of the tunnel. When I looked up, nobody was there.
Oh, my goodness. How do you hold that now? Miracle?
Well, I love following Jesus Christ. And the amount of miracles that he has created and that he has used other people. And God has used other people that have showed up in my life over and over. It's beyond human, over and over. And it wasn't proof from a book that I read called the Bible.
Yeah.
This was actual life.
Yep.
And it does not make human sense.
Yeah.
I feel like the hand of God, once I let go, grabbed me. And when I looked up and I saw nobody, I just never forgot that.
Okay.
I just never forgot it. Never. And then I give you one more.
Yeah. And even talking about the symbolism, because
Yeah.
that's such a part of your way of living,
Yeah.
the surrender. As soon as you
Yeah.
let go, you were saved, you were supported.
Yeah.
Imagine having a fulfilling career doing what you love, working from anywhere in the world, setting your own hours while making good money and a big impact. If that lights you up, then I'm super excited to share with you today's sponsor, the Institute for Coaching Mastery. This is my robust, accredited year-long certification program for new or seasoned coaches, therapists, leaders, and those just looking to up-level their life in a profound way. We have an amazing community of students from all around the world who have really started their journey to expand with us both personally and professionally. And this experience is designed to give you the 3 things that you need to thrive. So first, you have all of the tools and support you need to move past what's been holding you back so that you can completely change the trajectory of your life. And then you learn how to masterfully and confidently facilitate transformation with your clients or your team, regardless of your niche. If you want to do health, business, relationship, or you just have no idea yet, we hold your hand through that. And then lastly, you'll receive my 6-figure and beyond signature roadmap that's customizable to meet you wherever you are. So whether you want to do high ticket sales, online marketing, or you just want to hit 6 figures without ever needing to go on social media, we've got you covered. And this truly is the most rewarding work in the world. We have new students now who have a wait list of dream clients in under a year. We also have seasoned students who are doing $80,000 months. And this is really about creating lasting transformation from the inside out so that you can share your gifts and serve the world in all the ways that you're called to. And I've seen firsthand the power of what happens when you have the community to collaborate with, but you also have the right tools and resources to really thrive. And so whether you want to do your own personal development, you're wanting to become a coach, or you're just looking for a cutting edge approach to really grow your business, the Institute for Coaching Mastery is for you. You are held every single step of the way. And so if you want to get behind the scenes access to the Institute with 3 proven transformational tools for free to help you create the business and life you love, all you have to do is go to alyssanobriga.com/tools, or you can find us at alyssanobriga.com/apply now to see all the details and apply today.
So this is childhood. Now, I was in and out of juvenile, so I was on probation for breaking into cars. So I was already doing the thing, breaking into cars, breaking into houses. I wasn't supposed to leave the house. So I was on probation. I got caught again. I got busted for breaking into 60 something cars in one night. But this is what I called the white neighborhood. The white neighborhood is where all the white people live and they had a lot of money. I didn't live in that neighborhood. It was a mixed neighborhood. But that neighborhood that I went to, they would just leave their cars open. So I didn't actually break in. I just opened up the door and took whatever was valuable.
Yeah.
And so I did that 60 something times. Each car I went into was a felony. So 60 something felonies.
Okay.
As a 14-year-old being charged. So they were going to try me as an adult once I turned 16 years old. So I was going to be in juvenile for a certain amount of time. Then they were going to send me to TYC, which is a prison for teenagers. And then once I reached 16, they were going to try me as an adult. Mind you, I didn't start puberty till I was 18 years old. So I was a little kid for a long time.
Yeah.
So I'm in prison. I'm in a juvenile. And I remember seeing this guy. And there was something about him amongst every other guy. I was in the lunch line. And I'm like, something says, ask him how to get out. And I'm like, So I go out of line. I'm not supposed to be into it. I remember it's a black guy, gold trim glasses. He had on loafers, khaki pants, white shirt, about 5 shades darker than me. And I said, how can I get out? He said, do you know the Lord's Prayer? And I said, no. He pulls out this, what I considered a stupid little orange Bible. He said, when you learn the Lord's Prayer, you'll get out. And I'm like, yeah, okay. So I didn't listen to anything that he was saying.
Yeah.
I'm in prison. It's 1 week before they're about to ship me off 7 hours away. I've never been this far away from my mom. 7 hours away to go to prison for teenagers. And I was like, and that Bible, that little orange Bible was just sitting there. And I'm like, you learn the Lord's Prayer, that's when you'll get out. I'm like, what do I have to lose?
Yeah.
So I start saying it. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread and forgive us our trespasses. Forgive those who trespass against us and deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen. I read it over and over and over and over and over. And when I got it to the point where it felt like it was a part of me, it's a difference between reading it for memory and then reading it till it starts reading you. Something happened, and it was one day before they were about to ship me off. And I read it. There was a surge of power inside of me, and I could read it. It was like the embodiment. The moment I finished, knock, 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 knock. Jones, today's your lucky day. You're getting out.
Okay.
I have about 25 of
I
those
bet you
stories from my
do.
childhood,
I bet you
not
do.
knowing what that was connected to. But as we go deeper into the story,
Yeah.
that was the ABC version of what I've been able to cultivate, what my channel's been able to cultivate
Yeah.
in my now present 44-year vessel.
Yeah. Yeah. All of these things I hear that they have been building blocks to get you to where you are now. But for, context, so there's more to your story. There's so much to
So
your
much.
story.
Yeah.
Your dad being murdered, you going to prison, and as an adult,
Yeah.
being homeless
Yeah.
for what, 2.5 years,
Two and a
living
half
in
years.
your
Yeah.
car.
Hmm.
And from those experiences to where you are now, a transformational leader, author, speaker, like you really developed your craft.
Yeah.
I'm like, how, what was there a pivotal moment? I'm sure there were many, but was there a
Yeah.
pivotal moment where you just woke up out of rock bottom, of continuing the trajectory of your life the way that it
Yeah.
was?
So oh, there was so much. There, there has been three times where it seemed like I was about to hit this level of stardom.
Mm,
And it was in music, it was in modeling, and it was in sports. And I didn't realize how powerful the mind was. I didn't realize that you could tell yourself something over and over and over, and then you could shape your reality in that way. Because I didn't have people around and I didn't read books.
mhm,
So I'd just be just saying things. I'm like, oh man, I'm so lucky. I'm like, wow. And so in modeling, I reached some of the highest heights. And I was reading a book called The Power of Positive Thinking by Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, not realizing that what I was reading was actually causation to the frequency that I was vibrating in the universe became plastic and started matching who I
mm,
was being. You can't see the picture while you're in the frame. So in the frame of my lack of awareness, I thought I was just lucky. So when I stopped reading the books, and I had nobody to tell me leaders or readers stay in
mhm,
the practice.
mhm,
I stopped reading the books. The results that I had inspired a lot of people around me. And they're
mm,
like, oh my God, you're so inspirational, or you're so this, or you look so good in modeling. And I'm like, yeah, I know.
mm,
So I also didn't realize how powerful the unhealthy ego is as well.
mhm,
It's like throwing battery acid on your future. So so imagine the rise and fall in modeling, where it was like everybody, Tommy Hilfiger, Gap, Old Navy, L'Oreal. I was on all of those. I did the Destiny's Child jumping video. I was Beyonce's boyfriend in that video. I was Stutter remix, Chantel Impossible video. I was everywhere. And just as fast as it came was just as fast as I lost it.
yeah.
Start reading the book again, not knowing that this was the thing, who I was becoming while reading. Read Power of Positive Thinking again.
Mm,
And then I came into that's when I was in prison. So when I lost it all in modeling,
mhm,
that's when I started doing the drug running and everything, and I got caught.
mhm,
Then I went to prison.
mhm,
So I'm in prison reading, writing with my non-dominant hand, which I didn't know, which would exercise a different part of my brain.
mhm,
I'm like literally reading the Quran. I'm reading the Bible. I'm reading every spiritual thing I could get my hands on. I'm like, yo, all of these things are saying the same thing, but just like different words.
mm,
And I'm like, huh, but who actually reads the other stuff actually?
mm,
So I just became a reader, an avid reader, unlearned English and learned how to speak fluent French. And I said, what can I do in here that I wouldn't normally do out there? So I started doing everything that I used to love when I was a child:
mm,
running, singing, um, drawing portraits for other inmates, singing. Other inmates felt free from something that brought me so much joy.
mm.
And then running was something that I always loved to do. Now, mind you, I'm reading this book while I'm doing all of
Mm.
this. So I'm running outside every day for 1 hour in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon. Nobody else is running. 30 days, there was 60 something inmates running with me. There was less fights, less drug deals, less people stabbing each other. And I was in there for smuggling 6.2 kilos of heroin from one country to another. The most anti-drug person, still never had a sip of alcohol in my life, busted for drugs.
Damn.
That's how crazy it sounded to all my friends.
Yeah.
They tested the drugs 3 times, but when I felt free, it's the difference between fighting for freedom and feeling in your body the essence of freedom.
Mm.
I felt more free in prison than I did when I was actually free. So when I felt free, they called me into the office and they said, Jones, we retested the drugs, which they had no reason to. 90% was fake. And for the amount that was real, you've already done the time. You're free to go home.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
And I was still unaware. I was still unaware.
So it felt like it was just, things were just happening. I'm
so
lucky. Yeah, exactly.
So lucky. So
Okay.
the same thing that
Okay.
happened when I was a little kid in juvenile is the big adult version of it. Lucky.
Yeah.
So I go through that, get a record deal with Ludacris over at DTP Def Jam. Stop reading the book. And I don't know because I don't have anybody to tell me.
Right. No.
And then everybody's like, "Oh my God, I love your music. Oh, you're with Chingy and Ludacris and 2 Chainz and all this other stuff. I'm dating celebrities and all this." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm the man."
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how powerful the ego, the unbridled, unhealthy ego is. And just as fast as I garnered it, it's just as fast. I got dropped from Def Jam. I left DTP. And then I felt like everybody was taking things away from me. And this is to answer your question.
Yeah.
So I had a daughter that was 15. I couldn't get that right. I just couldn't love myself. So how could you love from a cup that you don't even give to yourself?
That's right.
So there was that. Mom's dying in the hospital. I'm living in my car, the car that I bought with the record deal money. I'm living in my car. I'm over $200,000 in debt. And so it was one thing led to another. My girlfriend had just broken up with me because I couldn't get my life together. So all of that was a rock bottom of a rock bottom of a rock bottom. I tried to take my life twice because it was, you saw this on the outside, but inside I was a walking dead person.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. 3:43 in the morning, November 2011. I'm tired of fighting. I don't want to fight anymore. I want to be healthy. I want to be happy. I want to be surrounded by nothing but positive people. I just want to inspire people. And I want to make a bunch of money, but I want the money to represent something that I passionately believe in that I would do for free. Just show me a sign. Show me a sign. 1 week later, I'm at a gas station and a homeless man asked me for money. And I said, "You have more money than me." And he said, "Change your mindset, change your life," and walks away. I've heard personal development stuff before, but it wasn't the words. It was the energy behind the words that did something to my spirit. It was like a conscious interrupt. Change your mindset, change your life. And I just started playing with that word. Change. So if my mind is set on something, then that's why the result is what it is. So if I do different with the same circumstance, my life will change. Change your mindset. So I started unconsciously practicing. Normally I would take the escalators. Change your mindset, change your life. So I took the stairs. Normally I would use gel soap. Change your mindset, change your life. So I use bar soap. Normally I was chasing women at nightclubs every night. Change your mindset, change your life. I started chasing a better version of myself. Normally I was scrolling. So I started reading books. All
Mhm.
of that was a part of the difference.
Mhm.
I started going to free workshops and personal development seminars, things I would never do.
Yeah.
And all of that was part of the opposite. Well, that got me into getting healthy and finding a health and wellness community.
Mhm.
I lost 35 pounds, put on 19 pounds of muscle at age 32 when I didn't think you could do that.
Mhm.
I felt better than I'd ever felt. They were all doing personal development. So I was doing what they were doing.
Mhm.
They were helping people. I was helping people.
Mhm.
And then at some point, it hit a stride. And that stride is what led me to wanting a deep relationship with my daughter, which led me to emotional intelligence courses, which led me to 10-day silent retreats, 5 days in the dark. And the whole time I was like, I gotta learn why she won't trust me. So I
Mm.
was learning by having this relationship with the feminine,
Mm.
I didn't even have with my mom.
Mhm.
I was learning so much about myself. And I had a reason to go into container after container after container after container. And then one day, somebody said, you want a relationship with your daughter? Get a date with her. And I was like, I've never pursued my daughter. I just listened to what she said. Don't call me. And I listened.
Mhm.
Well, how come you didn't call me? Well, you told me not to call you.
Yeah.
And so that's when I went from a weak person, but strong for all of you,
Mhm.
weak person to her,
Mhm.
to I am the most powerful representation of who my daughter will marry one day.
Mm.
And just by claiming that started the trajectory to all of this and the way that I'm living my life in a committed relationship with a new baby and truly looking at women through my daughter's eyes and not my dad's.
Yeah. Powerful. Powerful. So just I hear reading was a big part of it. I hear you starting to not only hear this term but embody it, change your mindset, change your life, like really applying that to every area of your life. And also that life was, it sounds like the entire time trying to show you the inner game, really doing the inner work. And as soon
Yeah.
as you got that, there was no longer this roller coasters of high and low because you were prioritizing yourself, also
Yeah.
reclaiming your inner child and the things that he really loved to do and what woke up your soul, what woke up your spirit, it sounds
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, no, that's it. That's exactly what happened. And then once I realized that that was an actual formula, like
Yeah.
something that people do, you can't see the picture while you're in the frame.
Yeah.
W- Well, I didn't know that, so I just thought it was lucky.
Right.
And so when it became intentional,
Hmm.
the same energy that I used to break into all those cars,
Yeah.
the same energy that I used to sleep with all those women.
Yeah.
It wasn't the fact that I was doing, I didn't know what to do with that energy.
Yeah.
I call it energy transmutation. It's not that you can't, it's that you've given all your power away.
Hmm.
And typically when I give all my power away, the universe sends me a signal to sit me on my ass
Hmm.
so that I could remember that that power doesn't belong out there.
That's right.
It, it belongs flowing through my vessel.
Hmm. I think that's one of
Yeah.
your gifts is that you take some really challenging life experiences and you use it for your growth and freedom.
Yes.
And that you don't play into the victim because that's not where your power is. And you
Not
may
anymore.
right, right.
Yes.
That of course that's part of the path. But then you started becoming more conscious through
Yes.
what is life showing me through these challenges.
Mhm.
And I know that part of your process and part of your healing journey included doing some forgiveness work with your
Yeah.
dad or writing a list. We
Yeah.
just share a little of that.
Yeah. And so when I was on the healing journey, which at that time I didn't even know that that's what it's called, healing. I
Mhm.
just felt an energy leave my body
Yeah.
and started seeing positive results happen in my life. Well, the reason why I'm so good at putting these together, because what I didn't tell you is one of my favorite things to do as a child was puzzles.
Mm, mm,
I love jigsaw puzzles. I love crossword puzzles. I love these different putting puzzle pieces together. So once I realized that this entire matrix was a big Rubik's Cube, well, now that it became my game,
mm,
and once it became my game, I could understand how to earn money, how to teach people how to earn money, how to build businesses, how to just walk you into the deepest crevices of your nervous system while being completely conscious
mhm,
because you feel so safe inside of this vortex that we created together,
mhm.
um, and show you who you really are.
Yeah.
And so throughout that process, what got me to understanding that there was some type of universal order happening is I was in the process of transforming my life and just getting rid of things and throwing away old clothes. And I just remember just apologizing and calling somebody whose feeling I hurt, whose feelings that I hurt from when I was 7 years old, Tess Hall. It was back in the day when like little kids used to hit each other and it
Mhm,
not be a thing.
mhm,
So we were on the bus. I pulled a drawstring over her head, hit her with a yellow backpack, and I never forgot it. So every time I
mhm,
saw her on Instagram, she's a year older than me. I'm
mhm,
44. She's 45. Every time I saw her on Facebook and see her light, the only memory I have of her is that.
mhm.
And I didn't think she remembered. So in the process, here's what I did. I said, Tess, kids do the stupidest things. I just wanted to reach out to say I'm sorry for, you know, hitting you over the head with the yellow backpack. And, you probably forgot about it and everything. And, she didn't respond.
Oh.
So I posted on Facebook a public apology to Tess. 5 seconds later, she said, "Can you please remove that? I'm in tears right now." And I'm like, people hold on to the way you make them feel that long?
Mm.
She wrote, one, why did you do that? Two, what about me made you do that? Three, the same thing is happening to my children and I don't know what to tell them. And I didn't realize what I could actually cause. And if anybody knows anything about me, it's easy for me to apologize for something if I hurt somebody's feeling. It's easy. I'm so skilled at it because here's what I saw. When I did that with Tess, I wrote a list of 250 names that I could remember from childhood up until present moment of things that I did negatively to somebody,
Mm.
things that I thought of, even if I didn't do anything negative,
Mm.
but they could always sense an energy, things that I thought of negatively to somebody, and people who did something negative to me, to reach out to them. And it wasn't about their response,
Yes,
it's about me
that's right.
freeing whatever this energy was and apologizing for my part. I just want to say I'm sorry for hitting you with, putting gum in your hair when we were 5. And
Mhm.
half the people that I reached out to say, that every time you post something, I can't stand. And I couldn't believe how much resentment was held
Ah,
for 30 something, 40 something years. And I started freeing and clearing and
beautiful.
clearing and clearing and clearing. Interestingly enough, the reason that got me inspired to do that level of clearing, I had this business that I had going. And every time I would clear, like 3 people and apologize and forgive myself, it's almost like 3 clients would come in. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
every time I do this happens.
Yep.
But I love puzzles. Every time I do this happens. I
Yeah.
forgive this guy that I was in business with. And at that time, we were making about $15,000 a month passive income, but it seemed like there was this like spiritual like block on both of our businesses. And I just was like, I'm just going to love him no matter what.
Yeah.
How he is not going to change who I am as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to powerfully choose to be a loving person.
Mm-hmm.
My business tripled within 3 months. And everybody thought I was cheating. And they were like, where are all these people coming? My spiritual advisor, Monica Zans, she said, Garrain, you released hate from your heart.
That's right.
And the hot air balloon can't leave the ground unless you release the weight.
Mm-hmm.
And I still do the practice today.
And what does that practice look like?
If I sense that I have negativity towards someone,
Mm-hmm.
or if I've done something
Mm-hmm.
that could potentially hurt somebody's feelings, I'll forgive myself for the state of mind that I was in.
Mm-hmm.
Because forgiveness is freedom, and letting go of resentment will complete the cycle. And then I'll reach out to the person. Now, I know there are some people, it's too dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe there's some physical abuse, there's a gun involved or some kind of things, and it's not healthy to reach out to that person. There are some people that I didn't reach out to. And there's some people who passed away,
Mm-hmm.
where I sat alone in a quiet room and I allowed myself to like really be with them and express how I really felt, and also apologize for my part.
Yeah.
And so, and I did one up as early as last week, and I was like, hey, I wasn't in the right mind, and I said some things I shouldn't have said, and I just want to apologize. And it's like, yeah, that's not something that you deserve, and that's not the person who I'm committed to being. So I'm just so sorry, and you have my word. Anytime your name comes up and I'm around, I will only speak highly of you. And that is a practice that's just a part of my DNA now. Next thing you know, $40,000 client. I'm like, it still happens.
Yeah.
It literally happens.
Yeah.
And that is learning how to work with the non-physical world.
Mm-hmm.
You can't see it, but you can see the effect of it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can start to understand pattern recognition and look at certain things in your life, if you can learn how to position yourself energetically, the same way you'd position yourself in a big giant ocean. You don't fight the ocean, but you can swim in the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
You can swim in the non-physical world, the ocean of emotion, by understanding that what's going on in your life, what you're holding on to that's negative, or thoughts or something towards somebody that's directly connected to something physical in your life, directly.
Mm-hmm.
Every light casts a shadow.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't think people get that the negative feelings or the emotional turmoil that they're going through affects them.
Yeah.
Less about other people.
Yeah.
And so forgiveness is really for us.
It's for us.
Mm-hmm.
And if they duplicate, that's the bonus.
Yeah, that's right. But that's not that we do the forgiveness for ourselves.
Yes.
And it's a blessing to them if they can receive it, but that's not our responsibility or job. And yet
100%.
I really hear you living with integrity. I really hear you having that as a regular practice now. And I know that you did some work to forgive the murderers of your father as well. Yeah. I mean, you went through that list, and which is so inspiring.
It had to be at least 1,000 times, because some people are like, well, I already forgave this person.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how often do you brush your teeth?
Yes.
Every day. Cool. What happens if you stop for 10 days after brushing your teeth every day for 10 days?
Yeah.
It would be stinky. Why? Because the bacteria will grow overnight. So the bacteria of
build up thoughts.
Yeah, build up thoughts.
Yeah, emotions.
Weeds don't need anything to grow but time. You give anything. I don't care if you're a shaman, if you're a guru, whatever you call yourself.
Yeah.
Give it enough time.
Yeah. Okay, this is great. So I would love to hear some of your regular practices that keep you expanding, keep your heart and mind open, because I know you are an intentional, integrous man and that you've done the work. So I'm curious to hear some of your regular practices now.
I want all of you to remember this phrase. Create a game that you actually like playing. And when it comes to my life, I'm like, what kind of life do I actually want to be in and play in? So that in itself, my home, my office is painted like the inside of my heart. It's not just plain, because the inside of my heart is not plain. It's colorful. My spirit animal is pandas. There's like Mocha Jesus on the mural outside, and then there's a picture of my wife and baby soul, and this little hand sign that me and Blair does. And you look at the lights in the background. You look at my car; it's turquoise and black. My car's name is Smitty. The way that I dress, every aspect of my life is directly correlated to sparking joy in my soul. So I don't have a life that has energy leaks.
Yeah.
From what I drink, from what I allow to come out of my mouth. And if I do, I'll course correct it. From what I'm listening to what I'm from what I'm watching, to who I hang out with. I don't hang out with people who have the energy leaks, and it's just like bad things happen to them all the time, because you're attracting that.
Yeah.
And so the way that I design my life, from the time that I wake up, 4:20 in the morning, I wake up, I do my breathing practice. I'll go and run 5 to 10 miles. There's no lights on my street, so I practice running in the dark. And when running in the dark becomes so easy, it's easy for me to go in the dark and pull people to the light, because I practice certain skill sets. And there's people, they rely on talent, and then there's people who's actually skilled and talented.
Yeah.
And when I wake up and I work on my breathing, when I go running, I train extremes so that my breath gets a larger capacity. So our typical breath is, when I go running, every 3 steps I take a breath in, another 3 steps I take a breath out.
Oh, wow.
So now imagine doing that for 5 to 10 miles.
Okay.
And then I go into the cold plunge and I do the same thing
This is a daily practice?
every day.
Damn.
And then I go, but I had to build up to that.
Yeah, of course.
But then I go into the cold plunge.
I think that's important to share, because I can imagine people hearing this. So
I'm
it's
gonna
like
do that.
floors, not ceilings. Like start
Yeah.
small.
I'm going to share with that.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm going to share with that, but I've built up a practice. In each one of those, I call a dragon that protects the castle.
Okay.
See, the dragon wants to take down the castle, but if you can turn the dragon,
There you go.
now it's protecting the castle. So what I learned through extending my breath, and then training the extreme, so maybe running or doing jumping jacks. You can try it for 30 seconds, and every 3 jumps, breathe in. You'll see how difficult it is. What I noticed was, when I got into, like, there was an argument with my wife where normally the fire starts burning inside, and then my breathing is the first thing that goes. After one session of trying to run at least 1 mile, breathing in 3, breathing out 3, only through my nose, calmly, the heat that normally comes up couldn't last the training that I did, because I elongated my breath and I put it to stress, and then I trained calm in my nervous system.
Yeah.
So just through one, I noticed how in an argument, I was easily able to drop into the thing that I trained for.
Yeah.
Now, imagine 2 years of that.
Yeah.
So I started with something so simple, and now I have 15 dragons that protect the castle.
That you do every day?
Well, 15 dragons that I've built into the breathing practice when it comes to running, swimming, cycling, doing my push-ups, working out, sauna, cold plunge. So I've got 15 of those things that are so strong that I've elongated my breath. So now my normal breath is my normal breath isn't like everyone else's. So my time is not like everyone else's. My capacity of bandwidth is not like everyone else's.
Mhm.
I don't celebrate New Year's. My New Year's is every 3 years because I've learned how to extend and bend time based off of my breath.
Mm.
So the longer your breath, the longer you have the capacity to live, providing you don't jump in front of a car.
Yeah. Yeah.
What I've noticed in the aging process is certain wrinkles going away.
Mm.
What I've also noticed is my health being much easier to maintain. No stress, I stay calm. And because the level of tranquility and calm rides throughout my everyday, even when I'm sleeping,
Mhm.
the world starts to slow down.
Mhm.
And when the world slows down, you start to see more.
Mhm.
And when you start to see more, you start to be more.
Mhm.
And so it becomes this game that I was able to create, and then I teach it now.
Mhm.
I learned the skill set of how to teach it in a very practical way.
Mhm.
I call it the life force training.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
And those practices, what I'm hearing, not only help you feeling more healthy and vibrant, but also prep you for life and that
Yeah.
they influence your everyday, which is incredible. And, just like, for me, I've been starting to come back into a regular morning practice. It's not at 4:20 a.m.,
Yeah.
but just with some breath, cold plunge, moving my body. It just has to be some level of stillness and some intentional movement.
Yeah.
And I love how intentional you live your life. And the other week when I was at your birthday party, you are one of those people that I see as an expander,
Hmm.
where and it makes sense to me hearing your story and just the amount of depth and work that you've been through in your own life and how you've used it for your own healing and transformation. I know on the other side of healing shadow work is creativity, is joy,
Mm.
is expansion.
Yeah.
So I honor the depth that you've done inside of yourself. And I'm so grateful to hear your story because I know and love you. And now I really get the full picture of your journey and where you've been and the man that you are as a result now. And even just talking to you at your birthday, there was a level of like an upper limit that I experienced myself that I didn't even know that I had until I
Mm.
heard how you are living, which is such a gift to have expanders in our life because you're not buying into limitations that you could be set from life or from others, and you didn't have that originally. So it's one of your gifts is to be able to keep expanding beyond where your mind would say no or where others stop. And so I think of these upper limits like a hum of a refrigerator where you don't even know it's going until it stops.
Hmm.
And hearing your story about having $1 million day or how you're working with clients one to one and your fees, and I'm just and I know the depth of work that you are doing. And so it's like that expanded me just by hearing that. And I
Yeah.
know that some of your work is around the artist's power.
Yeah.
And it makes sense to me to have you share your story of heartache and challenges, but to use it for more expansion,
Yes.
for more creativity, for more impact. And I know your heart. And
Yeah.
so I would love to either hear about some of the artistic and creative
Yeah.
work or experience a taste of it or,
Of
whatever
course.
feels inspiring and aligned.
Yeah. So I'll tell you, it's that someone said to me, they're like, Garen, I just love how you're just not in the box. And I was like, what box?
Yeah.
And someone was like, how can you have these prices during a recession? And I was like,
What
what?
recession?
I
That's
looked
right.
around, I was like, what recession? And they were like,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
oh,
Yeah.
if you buy into the narrative energetically, you become a part of their game.
Mhm.
If you study nature as it was designed, and what is it? You drop a seed into it, fertile ground, you put water, sunlight, and then all of a sudden it builds its root process. And based off how you take care of it, that determines the growth of the tree and the fruit that it produces. That's the oldest living law that doesn't change. Seatbelt laws change and all these different laws change. But, people are like, who's your greatest teacher? I was like, I study animals.
Mm.
They've
Mhm.
never been to emotional intelligence course. But if
Mhm.
you look at a tree where there's bees at a certain time of day, they work harder. That you can hear the buzz louder.
Mhm.
And then later on in the day, it's not as loud. So what that tells me is you don't work as hard later on in the day.
Mm.
There's something else that they're doing. I study nature
Mm.
because there's something innate already inside of them.
Mhm.
So if there's something innate already inside them, there must be something innate already inside of me. So why don't I learn from the thing from these little bitty spirits that are just teaching us all day long?
Mhm.
So inside of that, I was able to cultivate who little Garrain really is.
Mm.
And there's a reason. Why do they say all little kids go to heaven or all little kids are the closest thing to source? They haven't been tapped by this human world and commercials where they spend billions of dollars to steal your attention and all these different things. You look at a little kid, my daughter who's barely 2 years, she's not even two yet. And you watch how she explores and discovers and just like jumps into my arms and all these different things and pushes every buttons. And
Mhm.
she's in the wonderment and is always wanting to create. And there's a level of power inside of the way in which they learn and absorb that is not often in people as adults who, I'm not picking on people who work a 9 to 5, but you didn't choose that. There's something that happened along the way. There was something that you wanted to do when you were a little kid.
Mm.
And I always say the original abandonment is when you abandon your first true love of what you actually wanted to do to probably please someone else or
Mhm.
fit inside of some other group or something like that. Or my dad did this and this runs in the family. Well, what
Mhm.
what about what's running through you?
Mhm.
And I was in a deep meditation asking, what am I here to do? I've done a lot of things, but there's something missing. And all of a sudden, a little voice inside says, Garrain, I want you to think about what you used to love to do and nobody taught you. And every time you did it, good things would happen.
Mm.
And I'm like, what? Okay, I remember modeling. I remember when I finished modeling, I was consulting for them and I was doing these expression workshops because to teach models how to be on camera and to embody their presence. Nobody taught me how to do it. I just knew how to do it. And I would just do these workshops and then a voice says, well, what was the result? They were more confident. They were more self-expressing. They would take more risks.
Mm.
What else? Oh, I used to have a speech impediment and I had a learning disability. And what would normally take you 6 days to learn would take me 6 months.
Mm.
And I turned it and flipped it on its head. Instead of being slow, I learn efficiently and I don't miss a thing.
Mm.
And so I created Speakers Boot Camp,
Mm.
where I was teaching people how to speak and be an embodiment of the words
Mhm.
that are being evoked out of them so
Mhm.
that you can evoke things out of people.
By coming back to the little one, to your inner child, right? By coming back to your first love and what originally lit you up before you started conforming
Well,
with.
I mean, that was a part of the
Okay.
workshop.
Okay, got it.
That was a part of the workshop. But this is while I'm in the meditation.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, Garrain, you'll be at a party. You'll tell somebody you're a transformation coach. You'll be at a party. You'll pick up a drum. You'll just start singing or
Mhm.
drumming.
Mhm.
Next thing you know, 300 people are dancing.
Mm.
They say, Garrain, lead with the art, then take them to transformation. And I was like, it's been a part of everything I've ever done, but I've never actually faced the music. I was facing the audience, not realizing I was the maestro for the music,
Ah,
the art.
that's the way in.
And then it just drops in. Awaken the artist within. Garrain, create it.
Ooh.
And I'm like, oh, I got projects. I got a launch coming out in a week and create it.
Yeah.
So I went to my team and I said, burn the boats. They're like, what are you talking about? And I'm working on this thing. I had like 6 things I'm working on. I found the thing. They were like, what did you find? I said, found me. Burn the boats. We're creating Awaken the Artist Within retreat. In 3 weeks, they were like, what? That's crazy. You need time to create it. 3 weeks, 50 people. It was sold out.
Whew. It's so good to feel your gifts and just to hear your story and your heart and your integrity. I'm so grateful for you just being a leader of love in the world. I'm so grateful to share you with my audience. I know people are going to want to hear, where do they find you? How do they stay connected?
Yeah, so you can go to my website, GarrainJones.com. You can follow me on Instagram, Garrain.Jones. My next Awaken the Artist Within retreat is October 4th through the 9th. Awaken the Artist Within will be a great playground for you to practice and meet people in the same vibration.
Yeah, which is so important. Thank you. I'll
You're
put all
so
the notes in
welcome.
the show notes. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your magic with us.
Thank you so much for having me, my friend.
Love you.
Love you too.
Thank you so much for doing this work that changes the world, starting with yourself. It truly does make a difference. And if you're finding value in this podcast, a cost-free way to support us is by leaving an up to 5-star review. It does mean the world to us. And as a thank you gift, we're going to send you one of the most powerful tools that you will ever discover. You're going to get behind the scenes access showing you how to live into your full potential without letting fear hold you back from stepping into your dreams. Just head over to Apple Podcast or Spotify and leave a review now. You can take a screenshot before hitting submit and then go to alyssanobriga.com/podcast to upload it. And make sure to have your automatic downloads turned on wherever you listen so you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes. I have so much magic I can't wait to share with you. And you can find all this information in the show notes below. But lastly, if you're on Instagram, I love connecting and hearing from you. So come on over and say hello. I'm at Alyssa Nobriga. Thank you again for being here. I cannot wait to share more with you.